Asus sent me this pretty awesome gaming PC. It comes with an i7-6700, a GTX 1080, 16 gigs of DDR4 RAM and a 512GB SSD, as well as a 2TB hard drive. Now there are some interesting things about it. Obviously it's a fairly small form factor, also has an optical drive in the centre as well as two USB 3 ports, one of which is charging, and a headphone and microphone jack as well as a power button on the front. On the back you have a standard set of I/O including gigabit Ethernet, lots of USB 3 ports ready for Oculus if you really want to, an HDMI port as well as the full I/O for the graphics card, and also two DC ins that I'll talk about in just a second. It's actually quite an interesting design because the way that it works is basically it's just two laptop power adapters which actually require two wall plugs, two different wall plugs to be precise, two different connectors to be able to plug it in, and they actually have two different connectors coming off of the plugs as well, a slightly bigger and slightly smaller connector so that you don't get them mixed up. If you did want to take this apart, it's actually a little bit difficult, but if you do, you can see the reference Founders Edition GTX 1080, the SK Hynix 512GB SSD, and the interesting blower style design for the CPU cooler. If you want to switch out the graphics card, that means that you'll be able to access the hard drive and of course access the very proprietary motherboard, which is actually quite interesting. And you can see the RAM hidden underneath here. It's SD RAM, so again similar to laptop memory, and obviously this is the blower style design. And you also get an extra 6-pin power connector if you want to upgrade the graphics card in the future, although there is a warranty sticker on the bottom, so just do be aware of that. When you plug in the system, you can see that it's actually pretty good looking. You do have some lighting effects which you can change with the Aura software, and overall gaming on it is really impressive. In terms of temperatures, I'll speak a little bit more sort of in detail about it later, but basically this the CPU got to around about 60 degrees and the GPU got to around about 80 degrees, which means that the GPU is technically thermally throttling, but again I'll talk about that a little bit more later. Raw performance numbers are really impressive. There's a slight delta between, for example, my Extreme Gaming, Gigabyte Extreme Gaming GTX 1080 and this Founders Edition card, but overall it's still a very impressive machine and can still handle 4K games at around about 60 FPS in most titles on very higher ultra settings. For example, GTA here running on very high settings is still 80-ish FPS depending on where you're playing and all that sort of stuff, and even Doom on ultra settings, and this is actually OpenGL, as I couldn't get Vulkan to work properly, is still running at 59 FPS average at 4K. So again, this is a really impressive PC, and if you're after something that can run 4K games, can still be a very small and impressive form factor and actually be relatively quiet, then this is definitely something that I would recommend you look at. So I've got to say I'm quite impressed with this PC. For the size and form factor, having a small footprint like this is really awesome. And actually temperature wise, especially with the CPU, it didn't reach more than about 60 degrees Celsius. And despite this being quite a cold room, so obviously if you're in a warmer climate than Britain, which is quite easy to do, then you will probably see it be a little bit higher, but still nothing, it still be fairly respectable temperatures. The GPU, however, did reach 83 degrees even in this very cold room, so that was technically thermally throttling a little bit as it couldn't reach its full potential for clock speed, but it was still very fast. Obviously it's a GTX 1080, so you can expect pretty decent performance. There was actually quite a performance difference I found between that PC and the Gigabyte Extreme 1080 and my desk PC, which is a 6700K as well, so or 6700K versus non-K there, but there was actually quite a big performance difference, so that was quite interesting, but it's still a ridiculously fast PC and I still very much recommend it. Now, one thing that I want to make clear is that for once this is a pre-build that's actually worth the money. Now, of course it's still an expensive build, so I'm not saying that it's straight out good value for money on the parts on its own, but if you're just to go buy these parts from overclockers or whoever and build the PC yourself, if you include the Windows license, which of course you should, then it's actually more expensive to buy the parts itself than to get this PC. And of course this PC also has the benefit of being a ridiculously small form factor. Now there are some downsides to it. Obviously having external power supplies with two plugs to the wall plus your monitor can be quite annoying, and obviously that means that you'll almost likely need a power bar, but most people have one anyway, so it's not a massive deal. Just a little bit strange that they didn't, decide to manufacture a, single power supply, or even just make the chassis slightly bigger and include one, built in. But otherwise, it's still a very nice chassis. The I/O is quite good. They obviously still have some sort of partnership with Oculus for this, where it's got Oculus branding on the box and on the PC itself and on the USB ports in the back, but it's obviously very much VR ready. So if you're interested in that sort of thing and you just want to buy a PC that's nice and small and straight out of the box works, then that's quite impressive too. In terms of sound, the graphics card can get a little bit loud, and also the blower fans for the CPU can get a little bit loud, but it's certainly nothing to worry about. It's certainly, if you have headphones on or if you have a speaker set up, then you're probably not going to notice it. It really isn't all that loud, so I'm still quite impressed with that as well. And yeah, I guess that that covers the main bits. Obviously you do get some lighting in there as well, and obviously a very stylistic look, so that's quite cool. In terms of scoring, I think I'm going to go for a 4.5 value for money. You get a lot for your money, especially in terms of the fact that this is a pre-build that is, not overly expensive for being a pre-build, which is awesome. In terms of performance, I'm going to go with a 4.5 as well. In terms of functionality, I think I'm going to go for a 5 here. It's actually quite impressive. In terms of styling, I'm also going to go for a 5. TechteamGB score, I'm going to go for a 4.5 just because of the slight throttling and slight sort of noise that the Founding Edition card gives, but otherwise it's a very impressive build, and I'm going to have to give it the Gold Awards. If you want to see more about this PC, I'll leave a link to probably Amazon in the description down below. If you want to buy that or anything else, please do use the links down below too, as it genuinely helps me out and keeps these videos running and all that sort of stuff. If you want to follow us on Facebook and Twitter as well for updates and questions and all that sort of stuff, feel free to do that. Feel free to check out some of the other videos as well. I'll leave some playlists on the screen, and of course the subscribe button if you want to see more of these videos. Feel free to like or dislike depending on what you thought, but please do let me know what you think of this video, the PC and all that sort of stuff in the comments down below so that we can have a chat. Yeah, it's cool to hear what you think of these things and also what you think of the videos and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope you enjoyed the video, found it useful and informative, and stick around for each video Monday, Wednesday and Friday.